And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome in to the Bro Force Squad podcast, where we are just a bunch of bros drinking beer and watching movies. This is episode 210, and I'm your host, the Mayor, Jeff Hornacek. We very much appreciate you joining us for the movie discussion tonight. It's going to be a good one. Before we get into it, we must go around and meet the fellow bros, and we begin in the lab with the mad scientist, Brian Banner. Banner, is it true that you've actually renamed the lab your Mojo Dojo Casa House?
I cannot confirm nor deny any of that. I was told by my legal counsel that everything is still pending.
Yeah, actually, we're in a case against Mattel because we trademarked that phrase.
Yeah.
Wow. Come home to roost. Speaking of legal counsel, our legal counsel is Ronnie Cycli. Ronnie, what is a more unforgivable offense? Creating the atomic bomb or breaking up with Florence Pugh?
No, it's definitely breaking up with Florence Pugh, man. People are gonna die anyway. Like, what? Come on. What are you doing here?
Yeah. I could see them to Oppenheimer being like, dude, we've all done horrible shit here, but like, the chick's a 10, bro.
Someone else was going to develop the nuclear bomb, is all I'm saying.
Was someone else going to dump Florence Pugh? Probably not.
No, absolutely not.
Horrible that it had to happen that way. That was the real tragedy of that movie. That had my theater crying.
Wait, what other tragedy was there in that movie? I'm sorry.
Well, the poison apple, you know, that part.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about
that part. All right, well, here on the Bro Force Squad podcast, we start every episode off with the most important thing in any bro's life, and that is chest day. And our chest day topic today, as you can tell from the title of this episode, it's a good old-fashioned bro v bro, where we pit two movies against each other using the 5 Bro Force Squad criteria. Whichever movie wins 3 out of 5 at least is the victor, considered the better movie as argued by the bros. And this one, before we dive into it, it was in the making for quite some time, as pop culture simply insisted that these two films be linked forever in history, and that is Barbie versus Oppenheimer. We have done many Bro v Bros, I'd say probably like 15 or so, and I don't think we've ever done one for movies that are like currently in theaters, or at least like close to currently in theaters as this has come out. And then also, I don't think we've ever done one that like basically the cultural zeitgeist was telling us to do. Like, this one is not our own inception or conception at all, obviously. This is the world telling us these two movies belong together in every sort of...
You mean Schindler's List and Ace Ventura: Pet Detective are not?
Similar, yeah, akin to that. So before we even dive into it and we tell you who's representing who, Cycli, I don't know which of the bros came up with this idea, but let me just get your quick take on what has actually transpired culturally with the Barbenheimer phenomenon. What are your thoughts on it?
I fucking love it, dude. I bought a shirt that literally has Barbie overlooking a pink nuclear explosion. I'm a sucker. It's not just this, like, it's like, oh, haha, this is an awesome like moment, and this will be a funny shirt to wear, dude. This is like you look back in 10 years, right, and be like, well, that was a moment everyone kind of remembers. Right, like a part of culture. It was not just a fad, but like what else so far has distinguished itself in 2023? Right, like I think.
I mean, this is what we'll remember from this movie.
Yeah, which is, you know what, in all the shit that's happening in the world, for us to get to at least enjoy something as ridiculous as comparing Oppenheimer and Barbie, right? Like, two movies that I don't think inherently anyone even thought of being connected, and now here we are 15 20 years from now, we're going to laugh about it, and I think that's cool. I think that's fun that we're all going to be able to share that together.
Yeah. Brian, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, this is just the stars aligning. I mean, who would have thought that Barbie and Oppenheimer being released on the same day would just create this beautiful marketing shitstorm? And I think both movies profited off of it, you know? And I'm super excited. I think this is going to be fun. Not only I don't think we've done two movies drastically different than these two. I don't think we've had, like you said, two current movies that are in theaters. We've also, I don't believe, have done two that were released on the same weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we have. Sorry, go ahead, Cycling.
All I was going to say is, and can I say this? I haven't, other than going to Harry Potter or Star Wars, guys, people were dressed up in the theaters. People were having fun.
Absolutely.
Like people were dressed. I saw one couple, she was dressed in the most ridiculous pink outfit, and he was dressed in like the 1940s type suit. Like everyone bought in, and that's what made it fun. It wasn't just like a kitschy thing. It was like, we're all in this together. Sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
That was a great High School Musical reference right there.
It was.
Yeah, I mean, so I saw both of them. I saw Barbie first, and then I saw Oppenheimer like later in the week. But yeah, this whole thing, like when it started, I think it got people back out to the theaters, which was really cool. And the event film, whatever it may look like, I kind of like how now it takes many different forms. It's not just like Jurassic Park or Avengers Infinity War. Like it can be a Barbie Oppenheimer double bill.
Or Saw Patrol.
Yeah, so I'm a little. We'll talk about that in a future episode because I'm a little. That one feels a little forced.
You mean the audience to see Saw or not seeing Paw Patrol? In what world?
Well, I almost think it works better if there's like a big dichotomy in the demographics for some reason. But that one just feels like they both want to piggyback off each other for a little extra box office bump.
But that's fine. I'll do that double feature.
I know you will. All right, so those at home who don't know how a Bro v Bro works, for all of the movie reviews that we do here on the Bro Force Squad podcast, we have a 5 movie criteria template that we discuss the films using. That is the acting, the story, our favorite scene, the impact of the movie, and its rewatchability. So the way that a Bro v Bro works, tonight Ronnie Cycli will be representing Oppenheimer, and Brian Banner will be representing Barbie. For each of the 5 criteria, they will have a debate about which film is superior in that respective category of the Bro Force Squad criteria. One of the movies will be crowned the winner by myself, who is judging tonight, and be awarded that point. First 1, 2, 3 effectively wins.
First 1, 2, 3. I like that.
Yeah. So we will begin with the acting and the cast. It's important to note the cast is a part of this as well. So Brian, we will start with you for the movie Barbie. Acting, cast. Take it away.
Jeff, you're a beautiful person, I think, and you like beautiful people. Am I right?
Sure.
Well, there you go. You got the 2 most beautiful people in Hollywood in this: Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. Both just steal the show. Ryan Gosling literally steals this show with his performance. I have never seen a cast more top to bottom that has had more fun with this and with everything that was going on with the entire movie. Everybody bought in. Everybody knew what they were supposed to do, where they were supposed to be.
And I'm glad you say that because this is a film, especially the Kens, where you have to buy into the ridiculousness of this. Like if anyone is even like wavering a little bit with the world building and the absurdity of their character, it just would flounder.
Look, it's Barbie Land versus the real world. You either buy it or you don't.
And almost like a weird version of the real world because everything at Mattel is like clearly in a heightened reality.
Yes, that's true. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the acting and cast. Again, just everybody top to bottom bought in and knows exactly who they are. All the Kens know that they're the same person, and you can tell they're all the same character, but different. Same, but different.
Same, but different, yeah.
So again, do you want a movie where everybody's all dressed in black and upset and mad about everything, or do you want a fun, perky movie where everybody's having a blast? You decide.
Before I toss it over to Cycli, just a reminder, I don't know if we said this off the top, spoilers for both of these films. So if you haven't seen Oppenheimer or Barbie, we're going to have to discuss the film in its entirety here to do the Bro v Bro. So, all right, Cycli, your rebuttal.
If Banner's going to suck the dick of the judge, hey, Jeff, you like boobs, right?
Go on.
Hey, have you seen Oppenheimer? There are boobs in it. Florence Pugh's boobs, dude. How can you not like this movie? That's what you just argued, Brian. I mean, if that's the case, I can break it down that level if you want. But Oppenheimer, dude, I mean, I don't think I even realized going in with all the hype and build up to this film what this cast was, right? We knew Cillian Murphy. We knew Emily Blunt. We knew Florence Pugh. Robert Downey Jr., but the Matt Damon, Josh Hartnett, Casey Affleck, Rami
Matt
Malek.
Damon, who I begrudgingly will give him compliments. He was incredible in this movie.
I know this sounds silly, but Robert Downey Jr. was incredible in this.
And I loved Alden Ehrenreich.
And that's what I'm saying. I can keep going. Like the amount of the crazy thing about this wasn't just like, oh well, hey, they got a great cast list. It was like the characters who came in and played minor characters, right? Like they came in for one scene or two scenes, right? Rami Malek he was in the background.
I hated Rami Malek in this. I'm sorry.
I'm not trying to compliment him. I'm trying to say these.
He was ridiculous.
No, you're just name dropping. That's all.
I'm saying these Oscar-winning actors are literally accepting like a 5-minute scene, and that's what's crazy about what this movie was about, like the amount of like acting power there was in this film. That between Matt Damon and Robert Downey Jr. and Cillian Murphy, there wasn't room for everyone. So people were so excited to just take part in this. And again, I think when you watch the film, and one of the reasons why it's going to hold on for generations is the fact that we did get so many people involved in this. So I thought the performances were incredible. Florence Pugh, Emily Blunt, playing just an alcoholic wife and mother who's completely been ignored and abandoned by her husband, delivered a really strong performance, which I think is actually really underrated and not talked about compared to everyone else. Matt Damon. So I listened to a bunch of podcasts on the Manhattan Project, and Matt Damon's character, everything I knew about this man going into the movie, I was almost like nervous about Matt Damon playing him, General Leslie Groves. He was incredible. This guy is known for being a hard ass who got whatever needed to be done. People did not like him in real life, but he was a person to know. And Matt Damon, I think, killed the role. And
I was a little nervous. The scene of his in the trailer where he's discussing what's the name of the town that they build again?
Not Los Alamos, is it?
It is Los Alamos.
Yeah.
Where he's talking to the one scientist, and he's like, "Why should I go do this?" And he has the line, "Because this is the most important thing to happen in the history of the world." I don't know if they used a different take for the movie, but I liked it in the film way more than I thought I would from the trailer.
He killed it, and it just felt like in movies like these, sometimes there's too many cooks in the kitchen, and I felt with the amount of star power, it was played perfectly, where everyone had their spot in the limelight, but no one stepped on any toes from any performances. So I can't think of a film that had this much of what they did in terms of the acting power.
Yeah, this is a tough point to give away because both of these are like both of them have stars for sure, but the Oppenheimer cast is almost overloaded, and then the Barbie cast, it's the performances in it I think are like much more standout than the ones, at least like at the top, than Oppenheimer.
Can I say Josh Peck is your favorite person in the world?
That's true. Josh Peck is, yeah.
Yeah, and Gary Oldman.
He wasn't even my favorite Josh in this movie. Okay, yes, the Gary Oldman scene was a bit distracting and probably didn't even need to be in the film. And then Rami Malek being someone who has like clipboards knocked out of his hand for the first like 30 minutes. I was like in the theater like, by the way, Nate Thurmond and I, this is an aside, but we think Rami Malek just pulled the wool over everyone's eyes and fooled us with Bohemian Rhapsody. We think he actually sucks as an actor because everything else I've seen him in, he's awful.
Him and Gal Gadot are the most overrated actor or actress ever. Like, they are awful.
Yeah, they're really bad. Having said that, though, the cast of Oppenheimer is just absolutely loaded, and I think Cillian Murphy is going to get, if he doesn't win Best Actor, he's obviously going to at least get a nomination. So, sorry, Brian. I did appreciate what all the Kens did. I love me some Simu Liu. I love me some Kingsley Ben-Adir, especially after Secret Invasion. But I got to go Oppenheimer early to give it the 1-0 lead.
Yeah, Oppenheimer's just fucking loaded. There's nothing you can do. I almost just punted.
I was like, Brian, you're on the other team's 30-yard line. You can't punt. We're punting.
It's second down.
They won't expect it.
Strategy.
All right. Second one is the story or the plot. So, Cycling, I'll let you go first, and I will tee you up with the plot synopsis for Oppenheimer, which, according to IMDb, is the story of American scientist J. Robert Oppenheimer and his role in the development of the atomic bomb.
Yeah, I think so. I've always been a bit of a history buff. This story needed to be told because in American history, sometimes it's very cloudy how we look at the end of World War II, right? Like the development of the nuclear bomb. We've always said that, hey, like it ended a war. And really it was just kind of like this thing that was like, okay, we're a superpower and we have this weapon, and we've enjoyed what that provided to our country. But at the same time, we didn't really recognize growing up the horrors that this actually released, and what has happened in the world because of this development. Christopher Nolan came out and said, like, this movie is not like a compliment. This movie is not to say like, hey, everything that happened was great and we did it for the best of humanity. It's very arguably that this is going to be the downfall of humanity. And so I think it was great to actually put into a context where it's going to be told to the masses about the seriousness of this. So many people will say like, oh, just drop a nuke, do this, do that, like it's some simple thing.
Right. Like it's
The
just
story
some
was
decision that doesn't involve any like human thought.
exactly, and to bring it to a fundamental human level. I love what the movie did about the science aspect of it, right? Like how science in general is about exploration, is about discovery. But the problem with that is, what is that discovery lead to, right? Like Albert Einstein in this film talked about, like, what I developed led to this, and now you're going to have to deal with what you developed led to this, leads to this. How can a scientist not explore and not discover? But then the struggle of this film was seeing Oppenheimer's realization that he doesn't own what he created.
Yeah, I think, not to take the fire away if you were going to do this for best scene, but the
Yeah.
most harrowing part is after, like, the whole time it's basically scientists trying to solve a problem, which is what
Yeah.
science is. After they solve that problem, the scene of like Matt Damon essentially saying goodbye to Oppenheimer and
not giving a
the
fuck.
bombs being driven away on trucks, like, yeah, thanks for your role now. The rest is up to people that had no hand in this. Is really like, wow, he's really disconnected from this now. What happened?
And then sometimes it's like those people who are almost too smart to not even realize what's going on. Oppenheimer was like wanting a phone call to see how it went down, and no one was giving a shit. Like, he still was like, I'm important. No, they were using you.
Didn't Matt Damon kind of
for a
like
cause.
laugh at him? He's like, yeah, no, we'll be in touch.
Yeah, like, bro, like this was like, sometimes he was too smart to realize that he was a pawn in this game. Not saying he wasn't brilliant in what he did. We can argue that all day. But what I love about this film at the end of the day is it brought, again, to the masses an argument and philosophy that has been almost like barely touched about what really is the calamity of nuclear war and that discovery and what it has led to ever since. So I don't think a normal situation, an Oppenheimer documentary or anything, would have made $500 million or reached the amount of people it has. I think this was good for our country. I think it was good for people to learn. It was good to see a movie that actually, like, not just had an amazing performance, but the audience walked away feeling like they learned something.
Yeah, good point. All right, Brian, the story of Barbie. IMDb has the plot synopses as Barbie suffers a crisis.
Sorry, I fell asleep during that. Sorry.
Barbie suffers a crisis that leads her to question her world and her existence.
Jeff, what's summer for? It's to have fun, right? The weather, summer vacation. It's all about having fun. Not going to a movie that is a history lesson. Let's go and just escape from reality for a while, not see something about killing millions of people. And let's go. I'm going to go out on a limb and say the most fun movie of the year, at least thus far. It knows what it is. It stays in its lane. Classic story of fish out of water, characters learning who their true selves are. Got a little bit of action. You got great humor. What more do you want in a summer blockbuster? It sells itself.
The only thing I'll question is, I don't know if it stays in its lane. I think there's some pretty ambitious themes and ideas in this movie. Like at times it swings, but I think what works about Barbie is you can take it at face value as just a comedy movie with like over the top sets and like really fun performances, or you can look at it at times as like an allegory for a lot of things happening in social commentary in the world. And I think it works either way. For me, it worked as a little bit of both, is what I liked a lot.
See, and again, it's not about killing millions of people. It's not depressing.
I feel like it was about killing millions of people. You just didn't see it. You weren't looking deep enough.
Yeah, it was all
maybe. Yeah, I was looking at that surface level, that we were just talking about.
All right, so even though I feel like Brian's argument was more bashing Oppenheimer than actually in favor of Barbie, the creativity and I think just the...
Whoa, you're here to judge the arguments, not the films themselves, bro.
But I don't think he needed to do as much here to win this point for Barbie. I think it is, at least for me, probably the most creative movie that I've seen so far this year. Although there are some horror movies coming up that I'm kind of hoping can scratch that itch as well. But the story for Barbie, again, even though it's I don't even want to say based on IP because it just kind of features IP. It's pretty ambitious with the story that it tells. And Oppenheimer, it's sort of just like a victim to it. It has to tell the story that how it actually happened. I was always laughing. There was some podcast I listened to. I didn't want to name the guy because he's a pretty famous YouTuber and I kind of hate him now. But a fan wrote in a question to him and he charges people money to write in questions. And they were saying something about Oppenheimer and he didn't read the question on his show. He like cut off the person who was reading it because he said it was spoilers for Oppenheimer. And the person was like, "Can we spoil history? This happened 80 years ago. Thanks for taking that guy's $5 and then not reading his question." So Barbie gets the point. We're tied at 1. All right, we go move on to best scene in a 1-1 tie. Banner, you can go first for Barbie.
All right, Jeff. I want you to close your eyes here. Okay.
I love that every time you're up, you like bring Jeff into it.
I need you to go
respect
back.
it.
I need you to go back to the early 90s when Baby Horns was on summer vacation and you just play with your toys for hours. All right. Remember setting up all these huge battles with Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles and your G.I. Joes? It's absolutely absurd and ridiculous, right?
Yes, it was.
Now imagine that, but with live action Ken dolls.
I can picture it.
Is
Is there a dance number involved too?
Of course. Why wouldn't there be? The Ken battle scene. Do what?
I was going to say, is that the description of the scene?
I mean, look, I had like 4 drinks when I saw it, so it's a little blurry still right now. But I know it was a ton of fun, and it was awesome.
You're referring to the beach battle scene, right?
Correct.
With all the Kens? Yeah.
Yes.
I was going to say, that's the low-hanging fruit. You had to pick that one for best.
Of course. I mean, what else is there to pick?
Hey, Jeff, you picked my best scene too.
Florence Pugh.
Boobs are great. I agree. I was drunk watching this movie. Boobs are good.
All right, Cycling.
That's
Banner had
what
the better bet. Banner had the. I think Banner got cocky with that argument, knowing
I think he did.
the
I
better.
got a little cocky.
So can you out argue that?
I actually don't think the best scene was in Oppenheimer. I think the low hanging fruit would be the explosion. While that was such the buildup of the movie, and I will fault the movie for saying it happened too early. That was an impactful moment. The silence of the film, the shaking of your seat when that happened. But I actually found the next scene more powerful, or not next scene necessarily, but the scene when the nuclear bomb actually does go off in Japan, and Oppenheimer gives a speech in the high school gym, and everyone is just celebrating and acting like, again, it's kind of like how we viewed American history, because it's told from a certain lens, just like war. And they're not realizing what just actually happened, right? Like you're being like, hey, we won the war because we dropped this bomb. And Oppenheimer knows what that actually meant because he knows the consequences of what the chemistry built. And where he's trying to give the speech in celebration, and at the same time, he's hearing really subtle, horrifying screams. There's vibration. He's seeing bodies burned, skin melted. And again, the just the differential moment of that, like, celebration and pure pain and misery. I actually, like, I wanted almost more of that in a horrible way, but that film, that what he was going for, that I think that was the purpose of the film, was that scene.
Yeah, and I think it was a way to sort of creatively show like his guilt with it without like explicitly saying like, I feel bad about this.
Yeah, oopsie doopsie.
And it was sort of showing like in this moment where he's being celebrated, he's like, did I actually fuck up really bad?
Yeah.
Well,
well, all the scientists were warning him, but also Florence Pugh's boobs. That was the other best scene.
Well, you know, and I was just thinking another scene that I really enjoyed, and we actually didn't even mention this actor, but he was great, and it was Jason Clarke. His scene,
oh my gosh, yes,
with Emily Blunt at the end of the deposition, where you don't know, like, is she hammered drunk right now and is gonna like fuck up Oppenheimer?
I wanted her to.
Or is she gonna show that she still has her fastball? And,
she was a badass there.
Yeah, It was just.
I really think her performance was underrated. I stand by that.
Yeah, I do too. And they really didn't give her much to do the first 2 acts, which made it a little bit more difficult. All right, I can't believe I'm doing this because the beach scene I think was my favorite scene of the year. I just think Banner came in thinking he just had it in the bag. I gotta give this one to Oppenheimer. Plus, I mean, I don't think there's ever been 2 more different best scenes in the history of Bro v. Bro than
Ken's dancing on a beach and
someone seeing the horrific nuclear fallout of an atomic bomb. All right, so
pretty much identical.
Oppenheimer gets the
point. I don't see the difference.
Oppenheimer's up 2-1. This one, I think, is maybe the most hotly debated category we have, and that is the impact of each of the films. Cycly, we'll toss it over to you first for Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I think having Christopher Nolan back this film helped a ton. I don't think normally what I think this film has done and can do and will do is historical dramas are always kind of a tough play, right? In terms of reaching audiences, right? Like they'll be successful, but are they really reaching out over a wide audience? Because there's always people interested in history and there's always people interested in this kind of stuff. But by having the billing that this movie did and having Christopher Nolan do this film and the kind of the star power it brought in the story, I mean, I don't think I could be completely wrong, but a historical drama has never been this successful. And so the impact to me is I'm hoping it leads Hollywood to take these kind of stories more seriously, because these stories need to be told. And now that we have a film like Oppenheimer that was obnoxiously too long, still be that successful, will give the studios the opportunity to tell even more worldly stories of war that aren't necessarily war stories that are glorifying the war, about the human element of the side of what actually happens behind the scenes. Because there's so much more to this story, not just World War II inherently, obviously, but like about how all these things develop. And so for me, the impact was it proved that a movie that is dark and serious and grounded and gritty can be overwhelmingly successful if you give it the story that the people want to see. So I think that's the impact.
And obviously at the end, we have the Iron Man level tease for the
of course
U.S. history cinematic universe with the mystery around the JFK assassination. So
Lewis Strauss is absolutely...
I'm so glad you've picked up on that too. I was like, did he just fucking imply that Strauss was behind the
It was the weirdest moment it took me out, to be honest with you. They go, what was the senator's name? John F. Kennedy.
Well, then I started thinking, like, am I like trying to find something that's not there? But then when you mentioned it too, I was like, all right, maybe I'm not.
No. This is they're absolutely going to build a universe around this. So
that's what the world's all about. Universes these days,
that's
guys.
True. Right. If you don't have a connected universe, don't waste my time. All right, Brian, the impact of Barbie. Give it to us.
I think that I'm going to start off by saying if we gave out ties on the Broforce squad, Cycle, I think we could both agree that this one could be a tie. This culturally impacted us because the two movies were tied together. We are literally doing this Bro v. Bro because the movies are tied together. But we don't give out ties here. So let me throw a number at you here, Horns. $1.2 billion. That is the most money a movie has made that's not a sequel or a remake or a superhero movie. $1.2 billion. It is also the first solo female directed movie to hit the $1 billion mark.
Solo female, like it wasn't like co-directed? Is that what
it wasn't co-directed, correct.
Got it.
Makes sense. I mean, I think those two right there, if you're going on impacts, are pretty fucking big. Also, we're sub 2 hours. Cycling mentioned how long Oppenheimer was, so I thought I'd throw that in. I know that 2 hour mark is big with you.
It's huge.
But again, I think that this just showed us that you can really make a fun, good story out of anything. They made a fun story out of dolls from the 50s. I mean, I know that there's a whole bunch of other stuff now around it, but essentially this came from a doll from the 1950s, and we made a fun, fictitious story.
All right, well, Brian finally hustles out of the box.
I was about to say, where's this been?
Yeah, he just saved he saved it all for the impact because he brought fucking stats. He brought solid argument about cultural impact. I mean, that was great.
I've never heard Brian talk like that.
That's what I needed to see. He's been fucking hustling us this whole time. If I were right now, I'd feel like I got hustled.
Look, when I need to throw a fastball high and away, I can do it.
1.2 billion for this movie is insane.
Absolutely absurd.
It's epic.
And it's only been out a month?
And the key is that it's had legs. Like it did really well its second weekend as well, which usually the drop offs are pretty significant. But
another stat, it made like $29 million on the Monday after opening weekend, which again is another record for a Monday after opening weekend.
That's absurd. That's absolutely absurd. So congrats, Brian, and congrats, Barbie. We have a tie at 2-2 heading in to rewatchability, and Cycly has got to be dreading the fact that this thing takes 1/8 of a day to get through. But I'm going to try and come in with an open mind. Brian, we'll go to you first. The rewatchability of Barbie, why is it better than Oppenheimer?
I mean, again, just how much fun is this movie? It's not 3 hours long. It's only 114 minutes, so just shy of 2 hours. It doesn't feel like it's that long either. It's laughs the whole way through. This is one that you're going to be able to throw on if it's on TNT. Can we even say that anymore? Nobody watches TNT.
No one has.
It's got fucking commercials. Like,
we're
losing the younger generation now. This is something that when you're scrolling through Netflix trying to find something to watch, you'll be like, oh yeah, I'll flip that on. I'll watch it for a little bit, and then you'll end up watching the entire thing. It's just so enjoyable, so much fun. Super easy to just throw a couple beers back to. Very light material, not heavy. Rewatch it all day long.
Solid. All right, Cycly, you definitely have an uphill battle here. What do you got?
I'm interested to hear what this is. Coming from the lawyer, though, he's the one that could pull it out.
3 words. Florence Pugh's boobs.
God.
Fuck!
I mean, what more do you need? I mean, she's not just naked. She's naked for a while, guys. Like, it's like, she's like, no, keep the camera rolling. It's like, all right, I'm going to keep doing that. I have no other argument, guys. It's a fucking 3.5 hour half black and white film. All right, it's Florence Pugh's tits. That's it.
Man, that was definitely leading with your ace.
What else could I argue, guys? Please tell me.
Oppenheimer definitely has some interesting moments that I would want to go back and rewatch. But
yes. So
Nolan has never really been known for me, with the exception of The Dark Knight, for having movies. I guess Memento too is kind of an interesting rewatch.
So that, in all honesty, joking aside, like that is how I feel about this film. I will concede this element because I will watch it in terms of acts. Mm-hmm. Right. I find myself, I'll be more than happy to rewatch the first and second act multiple times.
3-day watch.
Yeah. And so that's the thing about it. I mean, when you can break this film down, which I think you can easily, it is pretty easy to swallow and take in. But on a fundamental level, I haven't been a defender of 3 hour long movies on this pod. There's a lot of other 3 hour long movies I will rewatch.
Yeah, it's definitely got, like I said, some interesting pieces to it, specifically like with Cillian Murphy's performance. But as far as which one will I rewatch next, it's going to take me a while to get to Oppenheimer. But not to say that I dislike it, because I didn't. I did like it. But Barbie, gotta give it the leg up here. Heck of a bro v bro, guys. This was a tough one to argue. But I think Barbie is going to take the lead and the victory with that last point in rewatchability by a final score of 3-2.
I'm happy to get 2 there.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a fun one.
Well, yeah, to get you guys just take on this matchup in general, now that you can take off your the jersey for your team. It'll be like at the end of a soccer match when they trade kits. Cycly, you saw both these films. How do you feel about the way this played out? Or really just these two films, like we said, will be linked together for history. So it's sort of an interesting combination of movies because they are so different, but comparing them, I think it's kind of a fun exercise to go through.
Yeah, I did a Barbenheimer. I saw both films in the same day.
Did you see Oppenheimer first?
Saw Oppenheimer first, which was first I was going to say I was leaning on seeing Barbie first. I was thinking mimosas, brunch, Barbie, nice dinner, Oppenheimer. And I'm so glad I was overruled by my wife, because we did Oppenheimer first, fun early dinner, and led into Barbie. My attitude, everything was so much happier by the end of Barbie. Right, like I can't imagine going to bed after seeing Oppenheimer.
That was a dodged bullet right there.
Yes, it was. Me and my wife got home all giddy, laughing. Like it was just a fun time. I think that's the thing about movies. What we love on this pod, you can have something like Oppenheimer that has this like serious element that brings audience to an awareness that they weren't part of. And then something like Barbie that is you just turn your fucking brain off and laugh and have fun. And that's the beauty of movies. And there's no reason that these can't be together, right? Like anyone who says like, no, Barbie is stupid because it's this and Oppenheimer's smart. Like, no, it's called entertainment. And they both provided that.
Well said. Brian, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I echo everything that you said right there. I think that I don't know that I can remember a more bonkers opening weekend with two crazy blockbusters coming out on the same weekend that are complete opposites but complement each other at the same time. Again, they're going to be tied together in history forever. And this is not to the significance of, but it has almost the same feel or a similar feel of Endgame. Like, this has never happened in cinema before. You've never had a historical drama come out with just an absurd, ridiculous fiction movie and them both kill it. I think there's like 12 theaters at the theater that I go to, and 11 of them were filled with either Oppenheimer or Barbie. And it was one of the best theater experiences I've ever had.
So I guess the last thing I'll leave with is, I guess we've kind of already seen it a little bit with Saw X and Paw Patrol, but I think what made this work as a double feature was that the studios were actively on board, and then Christopher Nolan and Greta Gerwig were like speaking about it publicly. Like they were almost cross-promoting the films, and I think
everybody bought in.
Well, because they realized like we just need to get people out to the theater, and obviously these are alternative programming for each other. So if we can get anyone that was going to go see Oppenheimer to also see Barbie and vice versa, it's a win-win. And what better way to do it than to steer into the skid? Like the Cycly and I did an episode about the Morbius jokes with the re-release. This is sort of the
Morbid time.
Right, it's Morbid time, where Sony didn't realize that they were the butt of the joke. Here, I don't know the exact two studios that produced both these. I know that Nolan is no longer with Warner Brothers, but the fact that they embraced this and I think did a really good job of
pretty sure Barbie is Warner Brothers.
Yeah, but I know Nolan after the HBO Max releasing all of their movies day and date during COVID, he said he'd never work with them again. But I just think it was interesting that they were willing to be a part of this and definitely make fun of themselves a little bit, because I know Christopher Nolan probably, when he was first approached about this, was like, I'm going to do what? Like, but I think it worked out for everybody, right?
I think Oppenheimer, one of the arguments I made about how Oppenheimer reached an audience, I think is due to Barbie. I really do. I think so many people saw Oppenheimer that because it was part of the gag.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I think we will see this again. I hope it's more organic and not. I don't know why, but it just feels like the Saw X Paw Patrol.
I think that's more of a joke. I don't think anyone is actually.
Well, they all start that way, and then once they feel like they gain traction, it's like, no, okay, then fine, we're being serious.
But you and I would go to see Saw X dressed as like a Paw Patrol character.
Absolutely, as like a puppy dog policeman.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah. Come on, I'm Rebel all day long.
Sorry, I just thought of something, guys. Have you seen the theory that Will Ferrell this is a connected universe to Elf, and that's why Will Ferrell, all he wanted to do was become like a CEO of a toy company, and why he was the way he was in the film. I don't know if you guys know this is going on online.
Interesting.
I have not heard this.
Also,
that he is the buddy character who's living in the real world.
I hate elves, so that's disappointing.
I think it's rated too. I can't wait for our Christmas movie season this year, because we haven't shit on that one enough yet. But very interesting. I'll have to read that. Did you find something on Reddit about that?
Oh yeah. There's always some weird theory.
I'll have to ask you to send me what you. I love a good Crazy movie theory. All right, the second part of our show is our protein shake, where we go around and talk about what is in our cup, also known as what have we watched lately. I'm going to start us off, but not really, just because I need to cross these off my list. Guys, I saw Barbie and Oppenheimer in theaters.
What?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Okay,
How
this
were
is so
those?
weird because I did too.
What?
Hold on. What? We should
Holy
talk about it.
shit. We should. Maybe another time, though.
Nah.
So,
Guys, what was your favorite scene in Oppenheimer?
oh God, I can't even think about it.
Banner, what was your
Boobs.
favorite scene in Barbie? Because I don't think we actually ever got that.
Banner, we'll let you go first. What is in your cup? Also known as what have you watched lately?
Let's start out with some negative. I watched 65, the Adam Driver.
Oh, I liked 65.
Dude, that was the biggest piece of shit I've seen in a long time.
You are the dino head, though.
Oh, I mean,
The girl in 65 is in Barbie.
it was just so fucking slow and boring. The dinosaurs, while I appreciate what they were trying to do, they were fucking weird. I think this movie had potential. It just fell on its face. I understand what they were trying to do with the language barrier thing, but it just didn't work. Just a waste of Adam Driver's ability and his talent. I don't know. There was at least 3 or 4 better stories that could have been told here.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know if you heard me because we were all celebrating. Maybe celebrating is the wrong word. But the girl in 65, she is the daughter in Barbie of America Ferrera's character.
Oh, shit. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. It's weird because these movies came out the same year, but obviously they're filmed at different times. So she's like 5 years older in Barbie than she is in 65. Like a ton older.
Yeah, I didn't even recognize her.
Now, Brian, so the interesting thing about 65 is, okay, spoilers for 65 if you don't want the end spoiled. Do you feel like they needed to do that at the end? How he basically has to get off the planet at the exact moment that the meteor hits Earth? That was actually the only thing I didn't like, because I thought we got more scary dinos than we typically get in these movies, and I kind of like the idea of like the man ahead of time in terms of technology, but being kind of limited fighting them off the whole movie.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I would have liked. I would have liked, because the whole quote unquote twist is it's 65 million years ago on Earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what 65 comes from. I would have liked to seen maybe 1 or 2 of the other cryo-frozen people pop open, and we follow them, and they are stuck there now. They know that they have this technology, but they can't use it, and that is what starts the human race on Earth. I think that would have been more interesting route to go down, other than he literally crash lands on a planet, there's dinosaurs, a meteor is trying to hit, and he's trying to escape. That's it. That's the movie. There's nothing interesting about that to me.
It kind of does feel like AI put together like the algorithm put together like things people like. Adam Driver, futuristic weapons, dinosaurs. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought, for my liking, again, you're the dino head, so you have probably a better judgment of this, but I thought it was like, as far as dinosaur movies go, I guess the only real ones we get are the Jurassic Park ones. So to see sort of a different take where it's not like we're not trying to domesticate the dinosaurs, we're actually the ones that are like at their will because
on
they
their
run
turf.
the planet. Yeah, I just thought that was kind of an interesting take.
So
yeah, I mean, that was, and again, I appreciate that they were trying to make them more realistic to what we believe dinosaurs look like now. I mean, obviously, we all know that Jurassic Park has a lot of faults. It just, I don't know, there was just something about it. Maybe it's just because Jurassic Park holds such a special place to me. It's hard for me to accept other renditions of dinosaurs, but on the whole, that was a minor thing. I mean, that was probably the best thing, honestly, of the movie. I fucking hated it. I thought it was terrible.
Wow. Psyche, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I haven't seen this film, but based on how you guys, outside of the dinosaurs, this very much sounds like it stole from Battlestar Galactica. So that's all I'll say to anyone who's listened to have seen both.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now you just made me want to watch Battlestar Galactica.
I was going to say, I got to go back.
Battlestar Galactica is fucking fantastic, and I will take that to my grave. The new version, not like the one in the 60s or whatever.
Yeah,
the new version's the one with Katie Sackhoff, right?
Yeah.
Bo-Katan. Yeah. Interesting. All right, Cycling, what's in your cup? What have you seen lately?
So I don't know if any of you have even seen this or heard of it. So I was on a plane a month ago coming back that Jeff, you and I were on a trip from. And on the airplane they had some entertainment, and
I love
I'm
a good
scrolling
watch.
And all of a sudden this is a TV show and I see Daniel Radcliffe and I'm like, oh, that's Daniel Radcliffe. I'm a big Harry Potter fan. What the hell? I didn't know he was on a TV show.
He didn't tell me this.
Yeah, he didn't. That's how I actually felt. I was like, what the hell? Like, how did no one tell me? And it was Steve Buscemi. I was like, what the fuck? Daniel Radcliffe?
Oh, I have heard of this show.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's called Miracle Workers. So I had no idea.
I think
they're
what the
hell this was. Seasons, right?
Yeah, so I didn't know that going in either. So I just put on the first episode, and the concept is hilarious. Steve Buscemi is God, which by that alone I'm in.
Right.
And Daniel Radcliffe and a bunch of characters, they work in heaven, and basically like Daniel Radcliffe is in charge of prayers, and it's hilarious. He's like literally answering one prayer at a time for the entire world, and it's always obscured players. Like one guy's like, just please let me find my keys. He's like, all right, I'll help you find your keys. And
he's like going through his inbox. Let me do the easy ones first.
It's hilarious. So it's like, I was like, what the hell is this? I finished the first episode. I literally elbow my wife sitting next to me, and I'm like, you should watch this. And so she puts it on. I make it through. By the way, these episodes are 20 minutes long. I make it through. It's such an easy watch. I make it through like
TBS. I know we make TNT.
Yes.
But I think this
I think it is. Guys, the first season, absolutely, you both need to watch it.
It's hilarious. It's amazing.
I saw
seen it? First season. Yeah.
Okay. First season, my gosh, like the concept is hilarious. Like Steve Buscemi as God has given up on Earth. He just doesn't give a fuck. And like they're basically trying to win him over, but Steve Buscemi's also hilarious as God because he's still like running the show, and he's trying to he has parents he's trying to impress. He's trying to start another project, and like it's this whole little world. The show is fantastically written, fantastically acted. It's basically like they make a deal with God that they can save Earth if these things happen. I started watching the second season, third season. They're in a fourth season right now. It is an anthology. Every season is a completely different story. Every season they're completely different characters. The same actors, but they're completely different characters.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, so the second season is a medieval story. The third season is an Old West story. The current season that just came out right now on TBS is a futuristic apocalyptic story. I will tell you guys this, nothing matches the first season. The first season's based on
I couldn't finish the second season. I hated it.
I wouldn't say I hated it. It's just it doesn't have that same charm. So the first season's based on a book, I guess. And guys, with how easy it is to watch, Jeff, I actually think you'd enjoy it too. It's just
the concept sounds hilarious.
Yeah, it's a fun concept. Like I have watched the second and third season, and they both have good elements. But at some point, and I know this sounds weird to say, but I think we all acknowledge it. It's still a primetime cable sitcom.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Right? Like where it's still held back because of certain reasons. The first season is perfect. It's fantastic. I actually just anyone listening, at least watch the first season of Miracle Workers.
It's weird that they take the same cast and like just completely shift. Like it's not even the same premise the second season because like inherently what would bring me back then? Like if there's no like Daniel Radcliffe has been in a bunch of things. That doesn't mean I like them all.
No, and I think that's where the show struggles. I think they struck gold with the first season, but they realized it was like there was no other story to tell.
Yeah.
So they were like, well, we got to keep this cast and show together and continue it. Like the second season is good. Like I think the second season's fine. It's just nothing is as good as the first.
Okay. If I check it out, what did you watch? Oh, well, I guess you watched on a plane. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, it is streaming on HBO. All of them are on HBO.
What's HBO?
Sorry, guys, Max.
I was really confused for a second.
I know.
Really confused.
We try to be factual here on the Broforce Squad, and I fucked that up.
HBO. 90s called. They want their channel back. I watched an Apple TV Plus original movie called The Beanie Bubble. I don't know if you guys seen trailers for this.
Is it about the Beanie Babies?
It is.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes. So it is about sort of in the vein of like, I didn't see it, but that BlackBerry movie that came out where it's like, it's a comedic look at the rise and fall of a bubble, like some company in like the late 90s, early aughts. This one, of course, focuses on Beanie Babies. Zach Galifianakis plays the founder of. So I always thought the company was TY. His name is
not?
his name is Ty, and he literally just put his
What?
name on every fucking Beanie Baby.
What? No way.
What?
So that was like the first thing that was kind of crazy to me. And then Elizabeth Banks plays his, you know what, all these stories, and I hate to say like, well, that trope is done again, because if they're true, then it's, you know, you can't really be like, you're just playing the same archetypes. But Elizabeth Banks plays essentially like his co-founder who gets, spoiler alert for the Beanie Bubble, skip ahead 30 seconds, but she gets like edged out as the company gets more and more successful. And Zach Galifianakis, he's definitely chewing the scenery in this one, and I don't know how much of this is factually based, but the most interesting part of this story isn't necessarily the Beanie Baby craze, although there are some crazy things that happened with their hype as their resale market got wild. Like, I don't specifically remember this, but apparently they did like a promotion with McDonald's Happy Meals that was like had McDonald's selling out of Beanie Babies like within hours of opening up and things like that.
That's
And there's another part of the movie. I vaguely remember seeing this on the news growing up, but there was a couple that got divorced, and the majority of their divorce hearing was them dividing up their Beanie Baby collection.
I remember that. I remember hearing about that.
But I think the most interesting part of this is the rise of the Beanie Baby coinciding with the rise of the internet, and more specifically eBay, because the resale market for this, once the internet was a viable place to actually purchase things on, like when people said, okay, this thing that I'm dialing up on that I plug into my wall, I will actually put my credit card into it now. Like I consider that a trustworthy thing to do. Once that became not taboo anymore, and the Beanie Baby price really took off, it was interesting to see how their company navigated the dynamics of a resale market and selling online, and how poorly they did so, just because they could not see, 5 inches in front of their face with what they had with this company.
I still have a Beanie Baby. I have my Chicago Bulls.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Baby. Okay. I know we had a ton when I was a kid, but I still have the Chicago Bulls one because that was a rare one. Yeah,
we used to have a lot too. But like most things that I collect, I don't sell them when they're popular because I want them. And then by the time you actually want to get rid of them, they have no value. So
I cut the tag off, so there's no sale value anyway.
So it's kind of interesting, but it's sort of like a paint by numbers of these types of movies. Like, it's definitely like a diet version of The Social Network to some extent.
All right. Worth watching though.
I think so. Yeah. The wife and I liked it. It's good it's like a good dinner watch. It's on Apple TV Plus if you have that. It's an original. All right, Banner, back to you. What's in your cup?
Do we want to talk about something we all watched?
Oh, Oppenheimer and Barbie, I think would be great.
I watched Untold Johnny Football.
Yeah.
The Johnny Manziel documentary on Netflix. This is, again, crazy because I remember when all of this went down, like, vividly. And
I'm trying these days, now that like the Redeem Team one came out and this came out, to see if like I can look at these without the rose-colored glasses and love all these documentaries, because it was like our coming of age when these sports stories happened.
Yeah. Just again, crazy to relive, crazy to hear some of the ins and outs about it. It just absolutely wild. Just a whirlwind for this kid.
What is the craziest thing from this that you didn't know going in?
So I didn't know the amount of money that he was signing all of those for. When they would like fly to the hotel and he's getting, $25,000 in cash. I thought it was only like a few thousand. I didn't realize the amount of money it was.
I was so glad to see that he was actually able to make some money off his likeness.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole separate side of this story. You could almost do just a documentary on how the NCAA really fucking took advantage of him. Like, I distinctly remember, I know Cycling and I talked about this, the NCAA won't let him get like a fucking chocolate bar bought for him, But if you go to the NCAA shop and Google or search Johnny Manziel, number 2 Texas A&M jerseys were popping up.
Yeah.
So that part.
Didn't he tweet that out or something like that?
I think so. Because they did the same thing with Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah.
Like if you Googled his name on their shop, even though their name wasn't on the jersey, it would produce the actual piece of apparel with their number on it. Yet they're not allowed to sell their likeness. Interesting. Cycly, what'd you think of it?
Yeah. I to be honest with you, I didn't like it. I wish it had been longer.
Yeah.
I felt like it really held back. Honestly, I was like 30 minutes in. I'm like, we're still in it with him in college. And I was like, there's literally 40 minutes to go. And so I kind of was like, I think they didn't go deep enough. You guys feel the same way I do. I fucking hate A&M. Johnny Manziel was a cocky asshole. I wrote, and Jeff, you know this, and Banner, maybe you remember, I wrote my law school thesis on Johnny Manziel and his First Amendment name and likeness rights. I talked about how actually I think he was fucked over, right? Like how can someone not profit off their own name? Like that's insane to me.
When
right?
everyone else is. Like how much would they would bring him to these donor events and just have him fucking sign autographs and send him $10,000.
And that's the thing. Like how can you tell in an American situation, like under our First Amendment rights, like, hey, if I want to sign an autograph and someone's going to pay me $100 for it, that is your inherent right. And so as much as I never liked him, like I defended him in that sense. It's not that I didn't. The one thing I didn't learn, I learned in the documentary was that he didn't really come from an overly wealthy family. Like, I mean, obviously his family was decently off, but like not like this oil baron.
Well, can I say something real quick about that? So, how negligent was sports media at this time? Because the Manti Te'o case, where
same time
they didn't even go look up whether his girlfriend was real, and then the story of Johnny Manziel's family being rich, we just were told and believed that this was the case, and it was not factual in either scenario.
Yeah, absolutely insane. So I think that was the biggest thing to me. And then I always compliment obviously he was one of the biggest busts in NFL history. His NFL career was a joke, but the fact that he was playing hungover half the time in college and doing that, dude, props to him. Like I think he's a douchebag, but Jesus Christ.
Well, I love Cliff Kingsbury saying they had their game at Mississippi State, and he's like throwing up in pregame, and he just turns to him and goes, "You better fucking play well."
Yep. It is crazy to think of that talent if he had actually cared.
Yeah.
If he had actually been, or if his coaches actually disciplined him, because it was clear that Cliff didn't, and Kevin Sumlin didn't.
I mean, he admits as much. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't care, and who knows what Johnny could have been.
It's interesting to hear him talk about his high school football experience and how disciplined and regimented that was.
Yeah.
And how obviously at the time he probably hated it and maligned the coaches and the program in Kerrville. But now that he has a little bit more perspective, he's like, man, if A&M would have been like that, I probably wouldn't have been in this.
Right. He was a 3-star coming out of there. He wasn't some amazing stud. So I think the second he got that limelight, it's like, fuck, you don't know what that's going to do to anyone's head. Yeah. And there was no one there to corral him in at all. His coaches didn't give a fuck because he won.
No.
Do you guys think he is, I don't want to say remorseful, but do you think he wishes he did things differently?
No, I don't think he cares.
I think he learned something from it, but I think if he could go back and do it again, he would do it all the same way.
Yeah, I don't.
Because I don't really think he cared about football. So the end result of his football career being over is okay. I
think if he actually cared, he would have put an effort into his CF. He had opportunities in CFL. He had opportunities out, after rehab and all this kind of stuff. I don't think his heart was ever in it. He just had fun.
The craziest part to me, and this was pretty harrowing to hear, but I think Geiger said in the text thread this past week, or maybe it was you, Cycly, you were like, I always wondered why he didn't get, because highly touted prospect. Why he didn't at least get one other shot after the Browns? Because typically these guys, I think even Jamarcus Russell got another tryout at least, or Vince Young did with somebody. So it was interesting to hear Johnny Manziel himself say that after he self-sabotaged with the Browns, his plan was to kill himself, to basically either commit suicide or just by proxy through his drug and substance abuse, just die. And then when that didn't happen, he sort of had the time to look back and reflect on it. But that's why he was, not only was he disinterested in football, but he was basically disinterested in living at that point.
I also don't think I ever realized how bad his NFL career actually was. In my head, I was like, oh, he played a bunch of games and just didn't, maybe one or two good
It was like, yeah, you're
games.
like, he's on a bad team.
He literally had like 3 games. Like, I mean, he was terrible. So it's like he didn't even. I remember it being differently, and then I looked at his stats. I was like, wait a second.
So I think we all remember, and at the time you laugh because you don't know like what the actual scenario is. Like, okay, this guy might die tonight. But we all remember when he flew to Vegas like the Friday night before they had a game with a mustache on and a wig or whatever.
Yeah.
But I guess for whatever reason, I didn't realize that the Browns cut him like that day when he got caught, which was interesting. I thought there was like they suspended him or like, but it was literally like when they found out that he was there, the Browns were like, all right, it's over.
It was the last game of the season though, right? Like, I mean, like not to give credit to the Browns overly, but like I think it was like the last weekend.
Banner, what's going on?
The wife's leaving to go pick up baby Banner.
Yes. But I was gonna say it was interesting to hear. I did love how they got his agent in it because being Johnny Manziel's agent at that time would be a 24-hour-a-day job. In fact, you might as well just work nights.
Yeah, exactly. I can imagine. I like how bro-y that agent was.
I did think it was funny. Last thing I'll say is how Banner, you might have mentioned this too in the group chat, how the fourth string, they all admitted the fourth string quarterback at A&M was the one taking his piss tests for him. If you're A&M right now, you have to be like, dude, can you please shut the fuck up for like 5 seconds?
Does any of it shock you, though, to be honest, about college? Like, this isn't just happening at A&M. Does any of it shock you, truly?
Yeah, I mean, no one that knows anything or like cares about sports at all, I think, has the naivete to be like, oh my God, let me clutch my pearls. How is this happening at a big-time college football program?
I like that they acted like A&M was some rural school. I'm like, shut the fuck up. You guys are rich kids. Like, they're like, we're the hard-working, blue-collar Texas school. Okay, no one paid attention to us.
Isn't your tuition like $60K a year?
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I hate it.
Cycle, you got anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be quick. I mean, Righteous Gemstones is still going on, but I can talk about that more later when the season's over.
Check that show out.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I talked to you about this off pod, the new horror A24 movie, Talk to Me. It's just got renewed. I'm not renewed. It's not a show. It just got approved for a sequel. This was an interesting concept of a movie. I don't know if you've seen the trailer banner. The concept is it's like a game you can play and you say these words and you hold this hand, that this hand is like a gateway to hell. And for the minute that you're under, someone who's dead can speak through you to the party that you're hanging out with. And you're basically a vessel when you're holding on to this hand. And they say you shouldn't go longer than 90 seconds, and one person goes longer than 90 seconds. And then deals with the after fact of what that is. So a couple things about this movie. I don't want to spoil it because it is relatively new and it's gotten picked up a lot. It has really good reviews. I think it's like a 95 on Rotten Tomatoes, which is insane. The movie wasn't what I expected going in. Based on the trailer, I thought it was going to be kind of like a party horror movie where like almost like an Evil Dead situation where something happens and there's a possession in front of everyone. That's not really what it is. It really is more about trauma and it's the main character and what she's going through. She had lost her mom and her desire to try to connect with her deceased mother and friendships and all that kind of thing. I think the concept of the film is actually fantastic. I think it's a really original idea. I think the movie honestly wasn't as good as it could have been, which is considerable because I think it has a lot of potential and it was almost held back within itself. And Jeff, you and I talked, I think I talked your ear off about this film. I am interested to see what they do with the second one because I think there again is a lot of potential there. But a really good performance, obviously a low budget film, but it's worth watching if you can get it for free on streaming or, like $5.
I had to mute Banner because I think he has like an ice maker working on it.
Yeah.
The thing that really interested me when you talked about it was, so the trailer kind of makes it seem sort of like one of those movies like I've only seen half of this movie, so I'm not going to really compare them. But that movie Ouija Board, where it's like a bunch of teenagers get together and
Yeah.
one of them gets possessed and starts like killing each other. But what you told me, again, without any spoilers, is that sort of the character who's the, I guess, protagonist or sort of the main person that we experience the film through, that there is like a little bit of a, not a twist, but sort of like an interesting dynamic with her relationship with going under the hand, like what happens there, which had me kind of intrigued.
Yeah, I think it's like I said, it's not a bad film. If I know, maybe it's a compliment. It honestly could have been better, and I think they have something special when sometimes these low budget films can only do so much.
Where did you watch this on?
I watched it at a local, like, independent film theater here in Knoxville.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so I think it actually did well enough to make it to some mainstream theaters. I'm sure it will be streaming relatively soon. But is it a good movie or a great? It's not like a fantastic film, but it's definitely worth watching, in my opinion.
Yeah, the one thing
Not
I
scary.
do, you have to give a lot of credit to A24 and Blumhouse, because they're like, if you're an investor in either of those companies or like an executive, you have to be just so pleased with what your business model is, because they find ways to give filmmakers that probably wouldn't normally get the chance an idea to put their ideas to screen. And their budgets, they keep them so under control that it's like, for this thing to be a huge financial success, all it really has to do is make $20 million.
Oh yeah, and the performance is what
That's
sells
just an
the movie.
insane thing to think about.
Yeah,
you could have done this as a college film, and it wouldn't be. The performances are great. That's the best part about the movie.
They are New Zealand or Australian actors in this?
Australian, I believe.
Okay, was the accent a bit of a issue for you?
So, I mean, this is I go support your independent movie theaters, but I think because I saw it in an independent movie theater, and because of the accent, and because a lot of the film is quiet, it made it really hard to hear. And
well, sometimes the sound mixing with these lower budget movies is like they really kind of skip. Like, you're like, okay, it's really loud when like the jump scares happen, and then when people talk, it's like really quiet.
That was the hardest part, to be honest with you. I think it was a theater I saw it in.
Right. Well, maybe if I get it in the home theater experience.
Yeah.
I know Banner has a pretty badass home theater setup, so that probably shouldn't be an issue. All right, I have one more thing I want to talk about if you're done with that cycling.
Yep.
Banner, I tried to get you to watch this. I'm glad you didn't, if you didn't, because I saw I guess I'll say first season, but I'm not watching any more of this. The show Twisted Metal on Peacock with Anthony Mackie.
I did not check it out yet.
Okay. I'm glad you haven't. Don't. Based on the popular PlayStation video game, which I actually really like. If you're not familiar with the game, it's basically you drive around in a car that has like weapons and missiles on it, and you're trying to shoot and blow up other drivers. Which is a pretty cool idea for a video game.
It's an awesome video game. No point to it, but it's a blast.
No, none at all. And the show, again, I don't think that inherently like is enough of an idea to put together a 10-episode season of a show, even though they're about 25 minutes per episode. But two things that I really have issues with in this. Number one, God bless Anthony Mackie. He's having a lot of fun with this, but this is predicated a lot on the comedic writing and the way the characters are written. And I don't think I laughed once. And this is a show that is taking a lot of swings at jokes. Like I don't know if we have like a measurement yet on the Broforce Squad, but like the attempts at jokes are high. Like there's some movies where like they only try a few times to make you laugh. So if they miss every time, it's really not that big of a deal. That's not the case with Twisted Metal. Pretty much.
Do they land any of them? That's a no.
I can't remember a time that I laughed in this.
Not even like a breath out of your nose, like a
maybe like one or two breaths out of my nose, yeah. Which is weird because normally Anthony Mackie can get a chuckle out of me.
He's got that presence about him.
The problem is the performances in this are pretty bad. And we get Thomas Hayden Church, who I normally like, and Nev Campbell for a little bit. But man, it's pretty rough. And then the second thing is, I understand the budget's low, and probably the concept of this show was overly ambitious based on the budget they had, because just inherently you're going to need a lot of CGI for cars exploding, and it's like a post-apocalyptic world that they're in. But this thing looks like absolute dog shit. I mean, it looks horrible. I would say it's shot on an iPhone, But Cycly, what was the movie we saw that Soderbergh did on the iPhone? Unsane. That thing looks really good. This looks horrible. So God, I felt that TV budget, and like again, I know it is. You're like Horns. It is a TV show. Like that's what it's supposed to fucking look like. But Jesus Christ, man, it was like hard to get through at times. By the time I realized the show sucked, though, I was 4 episodes in, and I was
like, you got to keep going.
It's the worst.
I wish it would have revealed its warts earlier because it could have saved me about 3 hours. But oh well, you live and you learn. So if anyone at home was remotely interested, because I don't want to say a huge fan of the game, but I had 2 of the games on the OG PlayStation and played them quite a bit. Probably stay away from this one.
It's disappointing.
Yeah, it is. All right, anybody got anything else?
I'm good.
All right, well, that brings us to the end of our show. That parrot signifies the Do You Even Lift, bruh? Part of the Bro Force Squad podcast, which is the question and answer segment that we end our show with. The question today, as has been the case for mostly every episode for about the past year, what are each of the Bros' top 100 movies of all time? And if you check the link in the description of this podcast, you will find the Google Sheets where we have been counting down all of the Bros' top 100 movies ever. Before we continue the list today, and I let the people know where we're at in the countdown, Cycly, why don't you explain to our listeners what these lists are? Because, as we always say, they're not the AFI's top 100 films of all time. This is definitely our own unique take on a top 100 list.
Yeah, this is only unique to you. This is special to you. It cannot make sense to anyone, as Banner's list doesn't make sense to anyone in existence. It's movies that can be impactful at the moment you watch them as a kid, as an adult, in a certain situation. And you don't need to defend your list. It is purely yours.
Beautifully said. Banner, anything you want to
add? We've said it once, we've said it 100 times. It's a really fun exercise. One of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. To sift through all of the movies you've ever seen and pick 100 out that are better than the rest. Extremely difficult to do, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I highly encourage people to try this exercise at home, even if it's on a smaller scale, because seeing where certain movies rank in your life is really just a glorified trip down memory lane. Because I think we're in the top 50 now, but I think once we get to like the top 20, we're all going to have very personal stories with most of those films, which will be really, really fun.
I mean, Backdoor Sluts 9, Backdoor Sluts 8, Backdoor Sluts 7. My God, it's just like...
Well, see, I have 7 ahead of 8. Or ahead of 9.
Wow.
Yeah.
God, okay.
Wow, there's going to be some great conversation coming up.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm a film purist. All right, well, where we're at on our current list is Ronnie Cycly he just did his number 50th movie of all time, which was The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Banner, your number 50 is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. And mine, which I actually can't believe it's this low, is Fast 5.
Shockingly low.
Yeah. So, Cycly, what is one ahead of The Curious Case of Benjamin Button at number 49 on your list?
It is Kevin Smith's Dogma with Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. This movie...
I have a feeling there's at least one other Kevin Smith film on your list ahead of this.
All right. Okay, yeah. It's... Okay, this movie... Honestly, I think it's so underrated in terms of the comedy element, but also the religious aspect of this film. I remember it being just like mind-blowing in terms of the questions actually asked, right? It's an absolutely ridiculous concept of a film, but it is inherently grounded in realistic Catholicism.
Now, I haven't seen it in a while. What's the premise again?
So Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are angels who were cast down to hell, or not necessarily to hell, but to earth. And they've been in limbo, and they're trying to find a way back to heaven. And essentially that they found a loophole that the Catholic Church was saying, if you walk through these arches, you'll be forgiven of your sins. So they just need to cut off their wings, become human, get forgiven, and then die and get their way to heaven. But if they do that, they prove that God is fallible, then disproving the entire universe and all humanity ceases to exist. So it's like, this is ridiculous.
Paradox.
Yeah. And Alan Rickman plays The voice of God, Alanis Morissette is God, which is an incredible moment. But the movie is one inherently hilarious. Like it is probably one of the best comedies ever. But what I remember is why it sticks with me is the fundamental seriousness that the film has. It's not just poking fun of religion; it's actually talking about the beauty of religion at the same time, and why people feel a connection to it. The protagonist is someone who is a descendant of Jesus Christ, who the angels are trying to convince to help them. She has lost a baby while she was pregnant. She has lost all faith, and so like you have this ridiculous film that has this beautiful human element to it. And I just remember walking out, like watching that film and being like, it was smart comedy. It asked questions, it pushed buttons. Um, Kevin Smith, one of my favorite things about him was there were protests against this movie, and he went and joined the protest. There's like video of him like protesting the film, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm Catholic. I get it. Like, this is a horrible film. We shouldn't have people watching it, kind of thing." But again, it goes back to
giving me free publicity.
Yeah, exactly. And George Carlin fucking is.
Oh yeah, that's
I mean,
right.
like, dude,
The
happy Jesus or whatever. The Catholic Church trying to rebrand into a positive Jesus. It's an incredible film, top to bottom. And honestly, like Kevin Smith he's lucky for films like these because it has carried his reputation.
Yeah, probably his most ingenious movie.
Yeah,
100% conceptually. Nice. All right, we move on to our number 48 movie of all time. Banner, we'll toss it to you. Now, your number 49 was Frozen, absolute classic. Mine was A Simple Favor, starring Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick. So what is your number 48, one ahead of Frozen?
48. This is, I believe, higher up on your list. Tron Legacy.
Oh, yeah.
So underrated. I get Tron is a cult classic. I'm just too young to get it. I've tried to watch it. I just can't get into it. Tron Legacy, my God, is it beautiful. The world just looks so cool. Great acting. How they tie it back and this was kind of one of the first, what do we call them? Soft reboots? Is that what they're calling these?
Like a Lega sequel, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, like a Lega sequel. This is kind of the first one of those that we had. The score is absolutely out of this world.
A top 10 score of all time. Towards the bottom of that list, but I'll put it up there with, like, you name
every other John Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's up there. Again, it's relatable with the fallout of Sam and Flynn and their relationship and them getting trapped. Just phenomenal. I believe this was also one of the movies that kind of revitalized Jeff Bridges' career, if I'm not mistaken.
Definitely. Daft Punk does the entire soundtrack.
Yeah.
I mean, just so
And it's nonstop the entire time.
It is. A sequel was just announced to this. Jared Leto is coming back as the villain, which I'm disappointed because, tying this all back into, I guess, Oppenheimer, the opening scene, Boehner, what famous actor is set up to be the villain of the sequel? Cillian Murphy.
Yeah.
He's like the one doing the hostile takeover of Flynn Enterprises. And we're just going to leave. I mean, maybe Cillian Murphy, they call him, and he was like, fuck no.
It's like, did you look? I was part of Oppenheimer, okay? Yeah. I don't need to do this.
Sure, yeah. It's like, do you know who the fuck you're talking to right now? But yeah, I don't get, like, when people say they don't like this movie, I literally legitimately ask them, I'm like, when was the last time you saw it? Like, what don't you like about it? Because it's better than any of the blockbuster shit we get now. Like, it's better than any of the Transformers. It's better than Indiana Jones this summer. Like, I mean, what sucks about this movie?
And it's I like that it kind of bridges two generations. You know, we got that generation that's older than us that when Tron came out was just out of this world, and then us who just don't get it.
Yeah.
Or at least I don't get it.
I remember being shown Tron. I don't know if it was like by my uncle or somebody when I was a kid, and I got like 10 minutes in. And I was like, turn this shit off.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. I don't know that I've ever watched the entire thing front to back to this day. But Tron Legacy taught me enough about what Tron was to where you understand it and it connects it and you see where it evolved to and how they got to where it was so advanced.
Yeah. I'm glad this is on someone else's list. I thought I was going to be taking crazy pills. Let me actually see where it's at on mine.
I believe it was 70. I looked it up the other day.
Yeah, 71. Wow, good job, Banner.
Yeah.
All right, Tron Legacy. I guess I'll go in the cycle. You can end. My number 48, one ahead of A Simple Favor, is The Truman Show, starring Jim Carrey.
Nice.
And as a kid, of course, we know Jim Carrey for his slapstick roles. I think this was the first time that I saw Jim Carrey, and I was like, holy shit, that guy's like a really good fucking actor. Because I did not know he had this in him. But the concept of The Truman Show, I think, in and of itself is just so genius. I mean, someone whose entire life is a reality TV show, and really, correct me if I'm wrong, but this was sort of before, like, when did the first Survivor come out? Like 99 or 2000?
Yeah, this was ahead of its time.
Yeah, so it, like, conceptually, it was even ahead of that, which is pretty wild. Just a crazy concept where he's the only one unaware that this is a reality show, and like everyone around him, you're like, are any of these relationships actually real, or is everyone just literally doing this because it's part of a paycheck and they're like a paid actor? So it's wild, it's emotional, it's high concept and very interesting. I don't know, you probably wouldn't consider this a science fiction movie, right?
You can no, not necessarily,
No,
but I mean, I
think
could
it
see
would
it
be more
argued.
of a drama.
I was just thinking like the sphere that they're in is like a little bit, but
Yeah.
it's probably not enough.
It's sci-fi in the sense of what, like almost Black Mirror-esque.
Right. I just think it raises a lot of interesting ideas and like the moral dilemma that even like the other actors have in the show, and then some of them like Noah Emmerich's character, who I think is such an underrated character actor. Like I love him and everything. How he's just like, I'm so committed to this acting role. He's like fucking hunting him down at the end of it, and then the one chick who like got kicked off the show because she actually was like interested in him romantically. And then is there anything more powerful than the ending scene where he's spoiler alert for the Truman Show if you haven't seen it. Sorry, 25 years old. But the ending scene where he's standing on the stairs and you actually think for a split second, like, dude, is he gonna fucking stay? Like, please don't. Please walk out that door. It's just very, very powerful. And for me, it's like you might be a big defender. You might stand for this movie. I think Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is one of the most overrated films in the history of cinema. And
No,
so
I'm not. Yeah, I agree with that. I've never been as into that film.
Okay, I didn't know how you stood on it, because for me this is Jim Carrey's best dramatic performance by far.
I always have agreed with, like, I think Jim Carrey, unfortunately, he's had limited opportunity, like, to really be this dramatic element. I think he's always been he has had the ability to do it, and I wish he had gotten more of a chance. Like, you and I, this sounds silly, but you and I have always talked about, if he had gotten the chance, yeah, he was the Riddler, right, in '98 or whatever. But
they wanted
I think
him to be Jim Carrey. Yeah.
Right, he wanted Jim Carrey. I think he actually would have fucking slayed as a dark, ominous Riddler.
Yeah.
Like, I actually would love that. So, like, I think he's been in a couple.
Terrifying.
Yeah, he was in the. The thing is, when he's been in roles that he's been in serious. Unfortunately, the movies have kind of sucked. Like the number 23. He wasn't
the Prestige. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not the problem in those films.
The Majestic, excuse me.
Yeah, he's actually, I think his performances are great. Even The Cable Guy, which is a very polarizing film on how people feel about that. Yeah. His performance, though, he can do it. So I agree with you.
If he didn't do the voice in The Cable Guy, I think I would love that performance.
Yeah, but don't you think that's them telling him to do that?
I don't know. What director in the mid '90s is gonna like tell Jim Carrey?
Well, that's what they're saying, because the audience is expecting that side of Jim Carrey. I don't know. I'm a defender of Jim Carrey because I think he can.
Well, I guess the director was Ben Stiller. I don't know. Maybe.
That's true. Yeah.
We'll see. But yeah, no, I agree.
Movie. I mean, great movie.
Him and Robin Williams, I think, Williams probably on a much higher level, but like two of maybe the greatest ever actors at doing comedy and drama.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think because there's a fine line between that amount of crazy, right? That both Robin Williams and Jim Carrey can hit.
Yeah, that's true. Robin Williams, when he's crazy, is like a manic crazy. Yes. Jim Carrey is just like you can't even really describe it.
Go watch the horror thriller preview of Mrs. Doubtfire, right? Like recut to be a horror film.
Yeah,
it's great.
All right, so Truman Show clocks in at number 48 for me to close us out for tonight, Cycly. What's your number 48, one ahead of Dogma?
Yeah, mine is, I don't think you're as big of a fan of this, but it's Ridley Scott's Gladiator. This film, I remember to this day, this moment, seeing this
Getting
film
a
with
sequel.
Yeah, which is, I don't know how
weird.
Is that, I don't know,
Okay.
Is it a sequel at this point or just another story about that time of Rome? I mean, it's clear he died. I remember seeing this film with my father in theater. My dad is, I credit him for my love of movies because my dad took me to the movies, I swear, like every weekend.
That's awesome.
And I distinctly remember watching this film with him, and I was 12 years old, I think, and I was just like in awe of the story just being like, great Hollywood story, but I think I was coming to an age where I really understood performance, right? Like actual acting ability. And it wasn't even Russell Crowe that like I thought was phenomenal. It was Joaquin Phoenix in this film. And I remember 6 months later when, this movie got nominated and won Best Actor and won Best Film, I was pissed as like a 12, 13-year-old that Joaquin Phoenix didn't win because he was phenomenal.
What was like this and Signs? What was the time gap between those?
I think a couple years later, maybe
Signs was after this.
I think Signs is so.
Signs was
Gladiator is 2000. Gladiator is 2000. I feel like Signs is 2002.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I don't know if that's completely right. But I mean, for me, like that. So the one, I think this has an unbelievable score. I think the story is a very great Hollywood story, right? Like nothing special, but a cool like man who stood up for his beliefs, got downtrodden, and was able to enact revenge, right? Like it's a very good Hollywood story.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for me, it was I started recognizing movies for what they were, right? Like not just like as a kid watching Aladdin or something like that, like as pure entertainment, but it was an art. And then it was cool because my dad loved the movie so much, and this you guys will get a kick out of this. Another reason why this movie is so important to me. My dad. So this is the first DVD we ever owned, by the way.
Oh,
DVD.
sick.
Yeah, we got a DVD player, and this was the first movie we bought. I remember my dad, and you guys remember how those TVs were back then on like the TV videos, switching between like 1 and 2.
Yeah.
My dad had Gladiator on VHS and on DVD, pause at the same scene. And we were flipping back and forth, checking out the difference in quality.
Oh, that's
cool. Awesome.
And he was like, look how much better the DVD looks than the VHS. And my dad records the entire film on a video cassette. So when we went on road trips, my dad would literally play the movie, like in the car.
Oh my God, that's kind of genius, though.
Yeah, like
yeah,
like so this movie is like really,
and it's
special
not illegal
to me
because he owns it.
Yeah, so like the movie is special to me, and not just like obviously it's a great Hollywood epic, and the performances are fantastic, and the music's great. But like it was cool to like it bridged a gap between generation of VHS to DVD. It was something that my dad really enjoyed, and like for me, it was fundamental at an age where I enjoyed performance. So I fucking love Gladiator. I have no idea what Gladiator.
See, that's what
this
list is about. Is fucking stories like that.
Yeah. Exactly.
That is probably one of, I mean, maybe I'm fudging the timeline a little bit, but like big releases that came out on VHS and DVD.
Yes.
VHS was basically, makes sense. It was replaced by DVD. So to be in a time where like whoever distributed it was like, no, we fucking need both of them.
Dude, I remember walking into Blockbuster at the time. I remember one week there was one stand of DVDs. Everything was VHS. And a couple weeks later, it was 2 stands.
Yeah, it's like one day we'll be rich enough.
And then a year later, it was like 1 stand of VHS.
God, that's crazy.
I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, cool, like time lapse where it's like, okay, this is how the shelves are like slowly shifting to DVDs over VHS.
Yeah.
There's only a Blockbuster left that we can ask them.
I think it's in Oregon.
I'll get the beef jerky road trip.
We'll listen to Gladiator the whole way.
I can hear the high quality of this. All right, I believe that will do it for episode 210. Before we let the people go, Banner, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, everybody, I'm very disappointed. Very disappointed.
Dude, it is getting worse and worse.
It's bad, guys. All
Oh
right.
my god.
When you see flashing lights, pull the fuck over. Okay? And the worst thing you can do is just stop. Like, at least if you're being an asshole and you're not getting over, you're at least moving. But don't just stop in the middle of the fucking road. All right?
I literally saw one run a red light in front of a fire truck the other day, and I thought of you. I was like, "What
Disgusting.
the fuck?"
It's we're better than this. All right, Bro Force Squad.
Sick roll
people.
we're listening. I know our listeners are pulling over. It's these other jackasses.
I know, but spread the word, guys. You know, start a revolution.
Cycly, how about you?
Keep it on the road rules, man. Left lane is for passing and going fast. Don't just hang out in the left lane, people. All right.
Great advice. I mean, all we do here is just have good advice for driving, which if you're listening to us on the road, you can use it in real time, which is the great benefit of this. Mine, if you're on your way to get your hair cut, this will apply then. When you get there, look, the poster on the wall that has all the recommended haircuts, I'm just going to be honest, all those people are probably better looking than you. So just be realistic with your expectations when you get the haircut. And let's not get too crazy, okay? Remember, you can always make the hair shorter, can't make it longer. So just keep that in mind when you're telling them what number you want buzzed on your head. And it's back to school now. Look, I know that your pre-back to school haircut time is over, but the haircut you get now, this is the one they're going to remember. You know?
This is the one that's going in the yearbook.
Oh, wow, good point. Picture day is next
yeah.
week, Brian.
Yeah.
Holy
So
shit,
this is your yearbook pick. All right.
That's more important. Wow, great advice. Great advice. For the mad
God,
scientist,
we're awesome.
we are. Mad scientist Brian Banner and our legal counsel, Ronnie Cycly. I'm the mayor, Jeff Hornacek. We are the Bro Force Squad podcast. Thank you for listening to us. Follow us on Twitter and no, I'm not going to call it X.
No, it's X.
No,
Well, we
it's
have to call it
X.
HBO Max. Like,
That's different.
same.
It's Twitter. And we're on Threads, although I haven't posted on there in like 3 weeks, unless one of you guys have. We're also on Instagram. By the way, Twitter and Threads, it's at Bro4Squad. On Instagram, pretty much everything else, type in Bro Force Squad as 3 words. You will find us there. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, and of course our website, Bro4Squad.com. Till next time, we'll see you at the movies. Banner will be dressed in all pink, and Cycly will be dressed in all black. And I'll just be there dressed like a normal person.
That sounds accurate.
It's slimming.
It's true. Is it black or is it vertical? I always heard verticals.
Yeah, I always thought it was lines.
I don't know.